Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to Making It with Terry Wollman. The first 15 minutes of this broadcast has some technical difficulties, so we ask your forgiveness and your patience because the rest of the show will be more than worth it. Thanks so much and enjoy.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
Welcome to episode 152 of Making It with me, your host, Terry Wollman. You can find all of our episodes on entertalkmedia.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or just go to my website, terrywollman.com/podcast. I really appreciate you joining us each week, and I encourage you to be mindful and safe as we work together as a global community to get through this health pandemic. I'd like to share with you my intention that inspires this podcast. Time passes quickly, and I've learned that we should do what's in our hearts and do it well without apologies or excuses. I encourage you to create your art and life in your own unique way and express your artistry with joy and abandon. Be willing to work uncompromisingly for what you believe in. Success will have a better chance of finding you when you live your life with integrity, focus, and passion. Be selfish with your discipline and selfless in your performance. And don't forget to have fun along the way. My guest today is Mayor Rick Rodriguez. Rick Rodriguez served as the mayor of Downey, California in 2018. He is founder of RMI International, an international security firm that operates in 18 states and 3 countries. Rodriguez founded the company in 1996 after a lengthy career in private security. Rick is a past president of the Downey Chamber of Commerce and current president of Gangs Out of Downey. His other volunteer work includes stints as chairman of Downey's Emergency Preparedness Committee, member of Downey's Los Amigos Kiwanis, and member of Downey's Veterans Memorial Committee. He is also a chaplain with the LA County Sheriff's Department and founder of the Living Tree Foundation, which helps returning combat veterans and their families. Rodriguez, the son of migrant farm workers from Texas, grew up in Monte, California. He and his wife Lupe have 7 children and 9 grandchildren. Rick Rodriguez, welcome to Making It. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Good morning.
Thanks for being on the show, and thank you for making the time. I know that you are in the process of being retired, but you're still very busy.
Yes, very busy. And I think that's the old adage. You want to get done, you ask the retired guy. We just never say no. We always say yes. And I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the idea of kids. I'm enjoying the idea of helping our foster youth, LA County, that 50% of our foster youth never graduate high school and then become the largest input of homeless community. And I love the fact that, I was able to create that helps all foster kids in Downey and even the surrounding cities graduate and then led them to a path to the jobs to avoid being homeless. That's the only way to get rid of this homeless problem. You're not going to give your way out or buy your way out. We have to earn our way out. I love mentoring. I just recently got asked to be on this project in Long Beach called Operation Jumpstart, and it's helping young kids at risk. When in our city, we used to call kids at risk, not kids at risk, we call them kids promise. They needed a helping hand, and they're helping hand up to be successful. And I was that kid. I was that kid at risk. I grew up in gang-infested area. I grew up with 2 older brothers, rock stars, and they helped me up. It was great examples for me to follow, and so they were never condemning of me. They were always willing to say, "Hey, pay attention. Let's do this." So I'm excited.
How did that happen in your family? Because it sounds like you came from a good family. Your parents were hardworking and instilled deep values, spiritual values and hardworking values in your family, but still you ended up exposed to trouble.
Yes. Yeah. Well, like most second generation migrant people that come here for employment opportunities, my mom and dad would buy property where they could. Initially, they came from Texas and from Michigan. They followed the chain of produce and chain of fruit, and they worked the fields up to Northern California. Then came here to East Los Angeles, and then worked their way into El Monte, and where they could buy a home for $20,000 back then. El Monte was a new up and coming city. They had an airport and everything, the airport, and hospital. So we're up and coming. So my father, who he dropped out of school in third grade, but he knew enough how to sign his name on loan documents and escrow instructions. And so, but when I was a little boy, we owned one house, and then we bought another and another. Before you know it, my father went up. By the time I was 18, my father owned most of the block on the street, where he didn't know anything about real estate. He wasn't a realtor. He didn't know anything about real estate. He just knew that America, if you owned the dirt, you had authority, you had power. And that power gave him the opportunity to send all 6 children to private school. So that kept us from the gangs and the streets, kept us in Boy Scouts and sports and bake sales and things like that.
That's pretty remarkable, actually. Because, my parents were school teachers, and we could barely own one house. I mean, I remember taking milk bottles back to the store before we could buy groceries. So, the idea of owning a block of houses, coming from being migrant farm workers, the wisdom of that and the fortitude is so impressive to me.
Well, my father, he always felt very inferior and very insecure because he lacked education. He didn't speak English very well. He had a very pronounced accent, to the point of, he didn't want us speaking Spanish at home. He wanted us to speak English without the accent, and for us to learn Spanish in school and not learn it at home. And then as we got older, he was, very committed to us, keeping our language, and teaching our children Spanish language. And so, I think that my father, he just, it's amazing how in today's world, we have immigrants from all around the world. I'm third generation Mexican American. And when my father was younger, they would assimilate. They would assimilate to their local surroundings. They'd want to dress like, they'd want to eat at the restaurants like, they'd want to drive the cars like American people. And they didn't force the issue of, these are my rights. You have to listen, speak, eat my food. I mean, who would have thought that tacos would become so popular, But that was that was the rule. And my parents would tell us that. They would tell us when we were young children, they would tell us, don't have the teacher something bad. Don't take time away from work to go deal with you at school, because I have a job to do. And both my parents worked 2 to 3 jobs. So we never knew anything other than that's the way life was. On Saturdays, my older brother, myself, my little brother, go with my father. He was a gardener. He worked when he was finally able to promote his career away from, working, paid principal. Got a job working for a company that was building the 605 freeway. My father was so proud of his job that he might as well have been the CEO of Boeing, because he was so proud to be a foreman in construction. He would take us to the job site and show us the most recent concrete they've just, paved and laid for the 605 freeway. But, on the weekends and after work, we would cut grass, and he became a gardener that later on became a retirement job. So when he retired, he became a full-on gardener in an upscale neighborhood that later he bought his retirement home in that same neighborhood. And when he couldn't drive anymore, he would push his lawnmower up and down the street and cut his neighbor's grass. But my father never knew anything other than hard. And in this country, if you do that, if you pursue, hard work, that's a success.
I want to talk about your very first act as mayor, because I think it really describes a lot of who you are and the way you look at things. And I want to circle back about some personal things about you as well, and really talk about the road to the mayor's office, kind of your life story. But this is very much in line with your personality and your faith. I read that your first act as mayor was to lead those in attendance and symbolically the city in prayer, for which you asked for a year free of turmoil and strife and focusing on the positive.
That's right.
What a beautiful way of starting that part of your career off.
Thank you. You know, that was from day one, that was the favorite part of my job as being an elected official. Being a licensed or ordained chaplain with LA County Sheriff's Department, I get invited, still to this day, I get invited to the invocation and benediction for all kinds of events, for groundbreaking ceremonies, for new building, new construction, certain whatever events the county will invite me, and I love it. I absolutely love the idea of praying for our city, praying for our county, praying for our country. I mean, you see today, I mean, it's become so divided and so broken that we forgot how to be kind to people. And I think that's really where America, how we got our start. My parents, when my father's father, when he came here, he spoke zero English. He was so afraid. Father died when I was a teenager. But the characteristic I remember in my grandfather was fear. He was afraid. He was afraid of police. He was afraid to speak up, and he was afraid to go out and unless he was properly dressed in a suit or nice church going clothes, he was afraid to do those things because he was intimidated, because he felt like he didn't fit in. And then my father went to the next level. He went to the next level. He was very mindful and very respectful and very, thoughtful. And then my mom and my dad raised us that way, to be just those people. Be kind. Don't have a problem with saying please and thank you. Don't have a problem with saying yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Don't have a problem with that stuff. And let it be the first words that roll off your tongue. Should be kind. My dad used to say, there's no such thing as a stranger unless you make that stranger. And it was so true. I mean, my dad could talk to anybody. He could talk to the pool guy, the gardener, or the president of a $50 million company. He was just that guy. And I'd be the same way. And when I became elected, I was elected by 44% of the vote. I had no idea of the election process. I had no idea of the dirty, dishonest, disrespectful look of politics. I had no idea. I was so naive. And so the only thing I could really count on were the characteristics I was raised with. Be kind. If I say hello, good morning, if I say how are you, and really stand by and wait for the response, if I are able to engage in and really have a good hard conversation, I won. And so my goal was, I started this when I first got elected, and I would tell my Terry, every time somebody would call and complain about parking or trees or dogs barking or whatever the complaint was, I would say, I'll take the phone call. And my goal is, I'm going to say at the end of the conversation, bless you. I want them to say it back to me. God bless you. Yeah, I would want them to say, God bless you back to me. I'd say it to them, and 99.9% of the times it would work. It would happen. They would say that to me.
So you made sure that you were accessible, that people could reach you, that they could have a conversation with you directly. May I ask you a question about current affairs, just because I have access to you right now?
Yeah.
What do you think of the current state of affairs in our country right now with the assault at our Capitol and protest of the upcoming inauguration?
First off, I think that there's no excuse to initiate any type of violence or any type of activity like this. I mean, look at when I was mayor, I was in the hospital and I had a heart attack and I was in the hospital. And so during that time, protesters came to my home. This is before wearing a mask, and was part of our daily life. But people wearing masks and hoods and bullhorns and flashlights and came and banged on the door when my wife was home with my daughter-in-law and my dogs and my granddaughter, and banged on the door and demanded that I would get involved with rent control and free rent and rent forgiveness, and which I had no control over. But because I was the mayor and because I was an elected official that represented our city, they thought that was the right thing to do. It was their First Amendment. And I understand their freedom, their idea of First Amendment. But however, during that time, all they do was terrorize my wife and my grandchild and my pets, and then horrify me because I'm laying in the hospital with a heart monitor on and trying to be cared for by the hospital. And I think that protesting is one thing, to voice your opinion and to be heard. And right now we're doing that now in a conversation, and that's okay. But when you really get down to it and you are protesting to the point where you're breaking windows and you're slashing tires and you're throwing rocks and people are getting shot, that's not protesting anymore. It's a full-on battle. It's a full-on fight. And I think that we're better than that. In America, my grandfather crossed that line in Del Rio, Texas, from Mexico to Texas to bring his children here, his 5 boys, to bring them here and say, guys, let's get to work. Let's find our new frontier. Let's find our new future here. And they did that. Like so many other, millions of other immigrants. My wife's family came from Cuba. Same thing. But then you get people that are not only immigrants, of all races, black, white, brown, you name it. All of them have decided, you know what? It's easier to pick up a stick and put a mask on their face and yell profanity and force people to hear my point of view. That just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Let's have the conversation. We can have the debate. During my professional career, I worked for Honda Motor Company, and I was in charge of security for the president for 8 years. And he was such a great business mentor for me. And but Mr. Honda's his founding philosophy for this $50 billion company, $60 billion company, his founding philosophy was respect for the individual. And there are a few joys in life: the joys of buying, the joys of selling, the joys of supporting, the joy of supporting your family. There are a few joys in life, and we, as people that worked in that company, that was part of our philosophy. And so I did the same thing in my company, same thing in my family. When I became mayor, I wanted to make those joys be there as well. The joy to go to work and lead people, the joy to go and be able to be healthy enough and strong enough to listen to your constituents, regardless if they like you or not. But listen with an open heart, open mind, open soul, open ears. Listen to them, because they have a reason why they're complaining. They have a reason why they want to be heard. And I did my best. But I think what's happened in our situation with our politics has become so ugly. And I think both parties are at fault. I think, we have a president now that he could have exited office and say, as a gentleman, go back to being a business guy, go back to making billions, and say, okay, guys, my time's up. I'm moving on. God bless you guys. Remember, I end every conversation with God bless you, right? He could have done that because a lot of people prayed for him. He could have done that. He didn't. And so then the new incoming president could have said, hey, guys, let's put this behind us. Let's bury the hatchet. Let's go forward. We're better than this. We're Americans. I don't care what color you are, what you believe in. We're all Americans. Let's all be Americans together. He could have done that, but he didn't. He got in front of people and said, hey, you know what? If this was, if other than white people storming the building, it would have been different. Come on. We don't need more than that. More of that. We had enough of that. We don't need more of that. We don't need more people that'll just continue to complain. Let's get things done. So and then you're seeing certain mayors and governors, state senators, state assembly people disagreeing with our leadership of our country. I don't care who's the president. We are still, I say this with tongue in cheek, we are still the best country in the world, the smartest, most technologically advanced, wealthiest. People want to come here. We have the best weather. It's just all the above. But, we have to earn that. We have to earn that right to keep it that way. It's not just given. You can't just expect it and say, oh, this is mine. I own it because I own it, and that's all. We have to earn it. We have to earn our right to be Americans and work hard and be kind, pay attention. Faith is one thing, but our our rights that are based in the Constitution, those our forefathers, they really thought this through. And I'm not saying they're perfect, but at the same time, we really need to pay attention to what we're doing and fighting amongst ourselves. We're only hurting ourselves, So that's my 2 cents.
I really appreciate you answering that question. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to ask you that. You mentioned having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Being in the hospital and how difficult that was for you to not be able to protect your family from the harassment that was going on. But that was not the only health scare that you had last year. Yeah. You had quite a year. You had multiple heart issues and a cancer scare as well. It's been quite a year for you. And I'm wondering how that, besides the obvious, how that has really impacted your transition into this second half of your life with retiring and what that means to you and how you envision this going on. Like, I know that you got a boat so you could spend more time with your grandkids on the water.
Yeah.
I know that you love working on restoring cars with your kids, especially your youngest son. And one of the things that you told me that part of the reason that you do that, besides just loving to do that, is that it's a conversation starter with people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. My health, I had 4 surgeries in like 14 months. I had 2 cancer scares. Thank God. Both surgeries determined that it was no cancer. And then I had a heart attack. I still have ongoing issues. I have the muscle, our heart spits blood in, spits blood out. And that's controlled by a muscle. And so in my situation, my muscle is very weak and weakening. And so when that happens, I'm reminded, every day, my heart goes into AFib about 3 times a day. And my Apple Watch will go off and a big red heart pops up on the screen and it says, you're entering arterial fibrillation. And so, I sit down, I take deep breaths, I focus on the moment. I have a Australian Shepherd, a 1-year-old puppy, and somehow, some way she's detected that this heart issue is serious. When I go into AFib, I don't know how, it's just I guess a natural born instinct for her. I've never trained her to do this, but she comes up and she lays her head on my chest and I pet her and that soothes me and I calm down and I breathe deeply and my heart goes back in a rhythm. And, I'm waiting for the next, I have a new defibrillator, pacemaker, 2-wire system put on my chest that's connected to my heart. I'm waiting for the next heart surgery to see what it will take. I'm fortunate that after going through all this stuff, I didn't become fearful. At first, it was a little. I'll tell you, Terry. It was a little. The thought entered my mind: is my time up? Is my time up? Is it? When they tell you have prostate or bladder cancer, prostate, bladder, kidney cancer, one of the 3, you have 65% chance of having one of those cancers. And then you come out no cancer, and then they find a cyst on your spine. And after having back surgery in 2012, they remove the silver dollar size cyst and no cancer. And then I had shoulder surgery, which I tore 2 biceps, bicep muscles off my shoulder, boxing, trying to stay in shape, and they reattached it. And then I had this insertion of this defibrillator and pacemaker. All those things, I thought, okay. As I come out of it and have this heart attack and pneumonia, COVID hits. So I'm in the COVID ward 3 times, tested 5 times, and each time I walked out without a scratch. And so I remind myself that maybe just by chance, God's not done with me. And maybe by chance, I really need to focus on what can I do still? What more can I do? Now, the 5 cardiologists said, hey, do yourself a favor, go find another job. Being the mayor is too stressful. So I agree with them. And I followed that. I didn't run for re-election. And then at the same time, I really enjoy people. I'm one of those, people. I enjoy talking. I enjoy being involved. I enjoy problem solving. People say, "Oh, we had a homeless problem in our city." I say, "Okay, what's the problem?" Well, they have, we do a homeless count. We counted, 112 people. Wow, 112 people out of 114,000 residents. We can fix that. Everybody took one. Everybody partnered with somebody. We can fix that. And so, consequently, we had one of the lowest numbers in LA County of homeless because we got involved. We got the churches involved. We got nonprofits involved. We got goodwill people involved. And people who want to do great things, got them involved. So I like doing those things. And I think that that's really serving my heart well, because I see actually the footsteps that are taking place and they're leading to good success. And, when you have my grandson, I wore this T-shirt because I want to show you this T-shirt. My oldest grandson just graduated from boot camp in Fort Benning, Georgia, and he was one of the
Fantastic.
Soldiers that I helped get in the military. I sit on the board of directors of the United States Army, and it's a volunteer position. And my grandson was one of the guys that we put in the Army, and he's a 4th generation soldier in my family. And so when I put that on Facebook, he came to talk to me. I put on Facebook a picture of he and I and his girlfriend, and about his success and how proud I am of him, just like his father. And so, and one of the mothers wrote, she goes, I remember the days how you talked to my son, and he was, kind of lost what to do after high school. You helped him get in the military. He's got a military career now. Thank you so much. And I think, wow, that's really the success. It's not the votes. It's not the dollars. It's not the, the big houses, but the success is that young man, that young person has the opportunity to earn free education, walk away with 0 college debt, walk away with federal service. They could be continued if you want to be a postman or a policeman or whatever you wanted to do. But this young person's life was changed forever because he wanted to work hard and put his best foot forward. And I helped him do that. And so I love that. I love that stuff. So I think that that's kind of helping my health, because if I sit home and sit in the chair and everyone tells me, the doctors and therapists tell me, don't do too much. Just, maybe get in the pool, maybe go for a walk. Don't do too much. Just sit around. I can't do that. I can't. The Japanese say, when you get old, you sit by the window. You watch the grass grow. I can't do that. I can't sit by the window. So I'm one of those kind of guys that really enjoys being around others. And even with COVID, I go for, I go for a walk, on the boardwalk. I take my dog. I park my old 56 pickup out in the street, and people start just naturally coming to talk to me about it. And we engage. Maybe wear a mask. Maybe we stand 10 feet away from each other. We engage and we become human beings with each other, But yeah, I think that the one blessing that I've taken out of all this is I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful that even though, 7 days after I had my defibrillator and pacemaker inserted in my chest and connected to my heart, it went off. And when it goes off, your heart stops and restarts again. And I thought at that time, when I went down, I thought, well, okay, fortunate for me, I believe with all my heart, when I die, I'm going to heaven. So I said, well, I guess, like I used to tell my dad, before my dad died, I tell my dad, the good part of it today is that when you open your eyes, you're either going to see me or see Jesus, but one of the two, and we both love you. And my dad said, he told me in Spanish, son, I know you love me and I love you, but I'm really tired. And no offense, I'd rather see Jesus and see you. And I said, okay, Dad.
¿Cómo se dice en español?
Well, so for example, my dad would say, mijo, escúpame, pero yo prefiero Jesus Cristo instead. And so, I miss, my father was my best friend. I really miss that old guy. He was a guy too. My brothers and I call my dad the man of second chances because he lived 2 lives. When he was a young guy, he was a tough guy, hard drinking, hard, back in the old days, honky tonk bars and things like that. He was that tough guy. Then he got older and he found faith, and he really became that prayer warrior for my family. And for 45 years, he was that guy that if you'd ever go to his house, if you would go with me to his house, you walk in the door, I said, Dad, that's my friend Terry. Before we leave, I want to pray for Terry before he leaves. That was my dad. He was that kind of guy,
It's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. One of the gifts and skills that I see in you is you seem to really have a mastery of the art of collaboration with people, with bringing people in, with all the community work that you do, with the work that you've done as a mayor. You reach out to churches, you reach out to the police groups, you reach out to independent businesses. Like you said, when there's a finite group of people that are homeless in your city, you say, well, that's doable.
Yeah.
We assign each one of those people to an organization or a family, and we fix it.
Yeah.
You create deadlines, and you're very. Where'd you learn to do that? I guess is my question.
Well, I think Terry, that when I started my business, I didn't go to Harvard Business School to become a business owner and a CEO of a company. I didn't. I worked at Honda. And I was in charge of personal security for the president, the CEO of that time. He was Koichi Amamiya, great man. And he became like a father figure to me. And so he asked me, he says, would you be willing to, go to Honda Management School? And you would be willing to go through these training courses and be willing to become a certified minority enterprise. And I said, I would love to. And he had a vice president of Honda Motor Company and charge of HR and admin and legal and stuff. And his name was Tony Piazza. And Tony, to this day, we were very good friends. And they took me and they taught me these things. And they would, they said, Rick, we're going to build a factory in Lincoln, Alabama. And I want you to go out there and get things ready for the president to go visit the residents in Lincoln, Alabama. Okay. And I go out there and I go meet the police chief of Lincoln, Alabama. And I would go meet him and I would meet the fire chief. And I would sit there and talk with them and say, look, we're bringing a factory. There's an employee, 4,000 people. It's going to be the largest employer in your county. It's outside of Birmingham. And a Japanese-based company. And predominantly, an all-white part of the world. And, Alabama's had some challenges over the years with racism and all kinds of stuff. They sent this Hispanic kid to go lead the way. And so I said, okay, I'll go. And fortunate for me, the governor sent his protection team to meet me. They're the governor of Alabama, sent their protection team and it's a team leader. And this guy Keith, he and I, we went to protection school years ago. We were young guys in our early 20s, and I just happened to catch up with him. He was an agent, a protective agent for the state of Alabama, and we started talking and we became friends and we worked together. And he introduced all these people, and I connected all the supplier diversity people. And Tony, was a master at these things. And so Tony did the same thing. He would tell me, Rick, I want you to meet this guy. And I would never say no. I would meet everyone, treat everyone the same. Honda has a philosophy of respect the individual, and we treat everyone just like that. And so it worked. It worked. Famously, it worked. And that was my training ground. It was my training ground for, who knew that would help me when I went into politics? Who knew that would help me when I would start my own business? But they taught me about the idea of collaboration and, working relationships, not burning bridges, not being the biggest jerk in the room, being the guy that's workable, So,
That's interesting to me because I would think when you are learning security that you would be learning tactical security. You would be learning self-defense. You would be learning offense, weaponry, and the ins and outs of that. Yeah. But you were also learning to integrate social skills, and interpersonal skills that you've brought into your business. When we've spoken before, you've just told me in running your company, RMI, which, by the way, is a family-owned, minority-owned, family-owned business. Yep. With the motto, working with passion and knowledge to fill your security needs, which is a beautiful mission statement. But the thing is, you've developed ongoing relationships. You've worked with a lot of CEOs, political figures, celebrities, and developed relationships with them. They put their life in your hands, and you've traveled with them. You have complete access backstage, a lot of rock stars, people in my industry as well. But part of it is they've learned to be comfortable with you. They've developed, certainly with boundaries, but a friendship with you. They know that you have their back.
Right.
And that's such an interesting part of the job.
Yeah.
And such an important part of a job. You bring a lot of heart.
Thank you.
To something that is very serious work, protecting people's lives.
And I'll tell you, Terry, I took that very serious. Part of my career for 4 years, I worked and lived in Bangkok, Thailand, and the surrounding countries. And I was in charge of security for the Deputy Prime Minister of Interior. And so in doing that, again, he became like a father figure to me. And I was willing to listen. But, when you go to work in that environment, you don't automatically, somebody hands you a gun and say, go protect this guy. Sometimes, most more times than not, you are sent to these countries and the only weapon you have is your brain and your tongue. Mm-hmm. And you've got to find a way to work out and find a solution, how to protect that principle. Any person in this business will tell you advanced intelligence is much more valuable than a weapon. Because if you have the ability to know in advance what's going to happen and have, several options of a resolution, then okay, you've won the battle. But you're right. I think, part of me is, I don't have that ego that a lot of guys in my business have. I don't have that. My end game is, I want to be able to everybody go home at night safely and laugh and joke about the day they had. And I was fortunate. I worked in, almost 20 countries around the world. And a lot of these countries are war-torn countries. And a lot of these countries, they take security very serious. And so, I also, I worked a lot in Mexico and protecting Asian Americans or first-generation Asians in Mexico. And they would respectfully listen to my point of view. But at the same time, as I took my job serious, I never took advantage of them. So all the time I'm on assignment with them, when I'm working with them, there was no fraternizing, there was no drinking, there was no time off. You're there, I have a shadow box in my office at RMI, and it's the story of the samurai. And it was given to me by one of the Japanese executives, and he says, "This is what I think of you. I never see you took a day off. I never see you take time for your family. You were always here for us." And that really meant a lot to me, that they would give me that respect. And so I did nothing other than, give them respect in return. And now that my sons, two of my sons are involved with protecting the executives for Honda and different companies and stuff. And we have, all kinds of different guys around the world that protect our executives. And I always tell them, it's one thing to be knowledgeable, weapons defense, close quarter combat, all those things. It's one thing. But if this person doesn't trust you to take care of his family, you've not done your job. And treat this family like it's your own.
Can you tell me about the Living Tree Foundation and what
Yes.
inspired you to found this organization and the work that you do with combat veterans?
Sure. So I have two sons that are, I have four sons, but two of my four sons are combat veterans. And at one time, we had both boys in Iraq together. And so as they're both, when they came home, they brought their friends with them from the military. And so we hire a lot of veterans. Matter of fact, RMI is a PACE partner, which is a Path to Youth Success. And so we hire a lot. We're our U.S. Army hiring partner. But in our industry, we have certain licensing requirements and training requirements before they get entry into the security world. A guard card, a weapons permit, a CPR first aid card, all these things, which equates to about $3,000 in fees for a guy to start a job. So a guy coming out of the military, they just can't come to work for a security company. They got to go through this training. It takes them about 30 days. They got to pay out of their pocket. And if they're lucky enough, they get a job somewhere. So my oldest son brought home like 20 of these guys. And he says, "Hey, Dad, these are the guys who work with me. They're under my command in the military. They need jobs." I said, "Okay." So I paid for them. I paid for them all to get, their weapons permit and their guard cards and stuff and their training. And we gave them all jobs. Well, after about 300 of them, we said, we need to find a new way to do this. And then my accountant, my lawyer says, "You're really doing God's work." I said, "Oh, thank you. I hear that all the time." He goes, "No, you're doing God's work. You're working like a nonprofit." And so I said, "Oh, okay." He says, why don't you consider being a 501c3? I said, what's a 501c3? And they said, well, it's basically doing what you're doing now. You're receiving donations from others and you're helping these people with that money and not just money out of your pocket. So I said, okay. I said, that sounds great. So we started the process. We became a 501c3. And we then were able to help other veterans, pay their rent, get their kids into shoes, get their kids, where they maybe need counseling, suicide prevention counseling for veterans is a big deal. At one point it was 21, 22 veterans a day commit suicide, So we would get involved with these guys, give them counseling. As a chaplain, I'm always doing the continuing education stuff. And I would get involved with marriage counseling and get involved with, suicide counseling or parenting counseling or drug and alcohol counseling. So we started doing that, and then we started teaching classes. And then I brought on other members of clergy to help. We were able to pay them. So Living Tree really, it's one of those nonprofits that is not just a help out, but a help up. Like I mentioned earlier about the idea of homeless, we want the same thing for our veteran community. We want to help them earn up and earn out of their situation. And when they come into the idea of civilian life, it's such a transition. And we want to be there. We want to be there for them. We want to help them understand, certain things, help them with employment, help them with the idea of, just fixing the immediate problems to help them with success. And so that's what Living Tree does. We've helped a number of families. My wife's in Cuba, and there's been a number of families that were in need as well. We had Hurricane Ike and Hurricane Katrina. We dropped a few containers of food and supplies into these small towns in Cuba. We helped build a few churches there. We here in the U.S. We did that before I was elected. We did this program called the Blue Star Family in a day, and the Blue Star Family is like my son now. My oldest son is a Blue Star Family. His son is an active duty soldier, a member of the military, and so he can hang a flag in his front window that identifies him as being a military family. So when the mailman comes and brings letters, he knows that's a military family. And so we had a Blue Star Family Day. So all the military families that we knew could come out and they could come to this big fair, and we gave free haircuts, and female members of the military get their nails done. We had raffles. We had car shows. We had guys from Camp Pendleton. They brought out a bunch of military vehicles. We had a bunch of employers out there that could talk about employment. We partnered with the Celico, the Southeast LA County Workforce Investment Group, and they came out to help find jobs. We partnered with SIACA, which is the Animal Control Agency in Downey, and created a program called Pets for Vets. So any veteran can walk in there and identify themselves as a veteran, and they can walk in there and pick an animal of their choice, a cat, a dog, a bird, a snake, whatever they wanted, and get it for free. And we pay for half, and they pay the other half. And so that's what Living Tree does. It really becomes, the right arm to people that need help. And so, and that's one of the things that, as retiring from my position as a city, that's one thing I'm really looking forward to helping, go back and work hard with, because as an elected official, I kind of let it slack a little bit, only because I didn't want people to think, oh, he's making millions on a 501c3, and it really is the mayor. I wanted to focus on one or the other. And so when I was elected, I focused on being elected, and now I'm not. I'll focus on Living Tree.
And give it your full attention.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned pets and dogs and cats and snakes, but you had also referred to your two dogs earlier, and one of them this year you're actually going into service training with, and I really wanted to know more about that. What does that entail? What is the training? And I imagine that you're both in training, not just your dog, but you as well.
Yes. So I have an Australian Shepherd. Her name is Sadie. She's a beautiful dog. Sadie came from a breeder in Houston, Texas, and she's a lover. She's just such a gentle, loving spirit, but she's also very protective of our family. But that's part of the breed. When I was going through this cancer scare, and a lot of my times, I spent so much time in the hospital at Kaiser. in Downey, I met a few ladies that they had collies, and they would walk around, and the collies would just go to different rooms, and I was there going through this cancer scare, and they were there with the collies, and so the kids would pet the collies, and the collies would stand there, allow the kids to pet them, and it was so therapeutic for those children, and for me too, because I didn't know at that time what was going on with my health, and so I asked them, I said, how did you get this job? They said, oh, we're all volunteers. We're all volunteers, and we are volunteers in the Children's Cancer Ward to be therapy dogs for these young children. So I said, I want to do this. They said, well, you need to get a dog, and you need to go through this training. I said, okay. Well, at that time, I had a 14-year-old English Jack Russell, who she's very, kind, and she loves to be petted, but she hates other dogs, and she can be snippy at times. So I said, okay, well, let's wait until I get the right dog. So we got Sadie. And as we got Sadie, I met this guy, Patrick, at PetSmart, and I told him what my plan was. And so Patrick said, listen, we have a 16-week service dog training course. It's certifiable, so you get a certificate at the end of it. It's recognized, and then you can. Then Kaiser does their own background and their own qualifications as well. But you can at least start your service with that stuff. I said, okay, so that's what we're doing now. We pre-COVID, we wanted to start Sadie as a puppy, but we know now it was better we didn't, because she was a few months old. Now she's a year old. She's much more mature, much more willing for the training. But she's also with the training, they stopped it because of COVID. So now they're starting to restart it again. So we're hoping that by March 1st, she can actually be in a 16-week classroom, and we'll be off to the races. So that's our plan.
Once you both qualify, you'll be going to hospitals, working just with children or with people of all ages?
I prefer just with children, but I'm okay where they send us. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I think this is part of the fear factor, getting past this stuff. I was that patient in the hospital, intubated. I was that patient in the hospital with so many IVs and tubes in me. I was that patient in the hospital that every vein in my right arm was used, that they had to go to my left arm, and when that left arm, then they had to go to the outside part of my wrist, and I was that guy. Now to see it on this side of the bed, that can be fearful. I want to face that. I want Sadie to help me face that and get there. And I want to share hope with these patients. Say, look, it's not all doom and gloom. Come on, let's do this. Let's stay positive. And we'll see. We'll see, how we do that, both of us, to do this. But I think to your point about both of us doing this training, it really is a commitment on both of us, myself and Sadie. It is a commitment because I think that we both have to want to be there. And dogs inherently, they want the affection. They want the attention. I think as humans, we kind of do it also. And I think that's a good fit,
I have a feeling that you are going to get tenfold what you put into this.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, both of you. The way that we met is through books.
Yeah.
Our love of reading and writing and sharing books. Can you share with our listeners about your free library that you you run?
Yeah. Sure.
It's small but mighty.
Yeah. It's so funny. I had a guy that dropped off like 5 boxes of books, just left on the front door. No knock at the door. I just saw him on my Ring camera. I saw this guy back his car up and off all these books. Inside that, one of the boxes was a book, timely, but it was a book about Tommy Lasorda called The Artful Dodger. And, we started, my wife works at a thrift store in Downey, and she's part of this group called the Downey Assistance League. Excuse me. And so the thrift store takes in books all the time. And my wife's an avid reader. My wife and my daughters, my gosh, they love to read. So my wife started bringing these books home and passing them around to the girls. And so then she would sit out front of our house, and people walk by and they would ask, what are you reading? Oh, I'm reading a story about Cuba. Oh, that looks so great. Can I read it when you're done? Okay, sure. I'll leave it out for you and you can read it. So we also came across a old church pew. And this old church pew is this old bench, and we brought it home. I put it in front of our house, and my wife made a little Afghan pad to it and put it out there. And we started leaving some books out there, and people would pick up the books and start reading. So then I built her a little cart, and then we started getting some more books from her thrift store. And then that cart got filled. And then I said, well, and the cart was kind of falling apart. So I bought her another cart, and I built another cart for her. And I put these little, plastic bins and filled them and put them out there. Next thing you know, we got more and more. And so in the year of 2020, we gave away over 500 books. And people would come and just pick up a book and sometimes sit on the bench and just read. And sometimes they come and pick up a book and they would start talking and say, oh, I'm looking for this one book about cooking Thai food. And I look at it. So then one person would drop by books. And I'd say, if you have any good cookbooks, please bring them, because I have a lady that wants to know more about cooking. Oh, I have 3 cooking books. Okay, so they'd bring them out. And my wife would, she'd tag them and put her label on them so they would know that's our books we're passing out. And sure enough, they'd come by. So it's now grown to, 2 carts. We probably put on the average about at least 50 books out a day. And people come by and they sit, and, a lot of people come to our street to watch sunset, and they'll pick up a book and they'll have a conversation. It's become like the outdoor Starbucks. People come with their cup of coffee and a book, and they sit there and they just talk, But yeah, it's really it's become that focal point for us that to pass these books out to just people, random people. And I have one lady, she's 90 years old. She lives about 2 blocks away on Bayside, and she loves detective mysteries. And so she said, I took 5 books. I'm sorry, I just couldn't put them down. And she said, but I brought them back. Can I take 5 more? I said, sure, take them. She's 90 years old, and she walks these 2 blocks to that little library, drops them off, and picks up 5 more and goes back home. Now, I know, having a 90-year-old mother, that's so stimulating for her mind and so good for her body to walk those 2 blocks. So yeah, I think that we're really doing the right thing for helping others, engage in that stuff.
It's wonderful. It's one of the great things about our little neighborhood. Yeah, absolutely. So you are also, as well as being an avid reader, you're a writer. You write poetry, and you have written a few things, but you're also starting a book, in this new exciting chapter of your life, retirement. And you're writing a children's book that's tentatively called The Road to the Mayor's Office.
Right.
Tell me about it. You're also going to be collaborating on that with one of your grandkids.
Yeah. So my little granddaughter, Rachel Larison, she is an artist. She loves to draw. She loves to, illustrate her thoughts on paper. She's just very creative. And so one day we're talking, and she says, she calls me Papa. She goes, Papa, I told my friends at school that you're the mayor. Can you come talk to my class? And I said, okay. And I love doing that. When I was mayor, I probably read in public schools. I probably read to them at least, once, twice a month. I love doing it. And so one day, at the end of my session with the kids, they're usually from kindergarten to 3rd grade or 4th grade. And so one day I would ask them, hey guys, at the end of my time with you, you could ask me whatever you want. And so the questions were always the same. Every grade, every class, they would say, do you live in a mansion? Did you always want to be mayor? What kind of car do you drive? And things of that nature. And so, or the last question is, can I be mayor? And so, and I would tell them that when I was a little boy, I never thought about being the mayor. I just knew that I like talking to people. And my dad used to say, you should become a lawyer because you like to argue and talk with people. And so, but I never thought about being the mayor. And in our city, the city doesn't provide a house where you have to buy your own house. And so I'd answer these questions. And I thought, maybe there's some guidance to these young people having hope, because a lot of these kids in public school, they're first generation. Mom and dad don't speak English. They were product of a divorced family. They were product of one parent being incarcerated. But they have a variety of circumstances. But this little person goes to public school. So after I finished this, I said, "Oh, one child even asked me, did you write the book that you read to us?" And the books that I would read to them, there's a series of them. It's called Skippy John Jones, and Skippy John Jones is he's a cat, and he goes into a closet, and when on the other side of the closet, he becomes a Mexican superhero, and so called Scipito. And Scipito is a rat. He's a superhero rat that wears a cape and a mask, but he's that guy, and he talks Spanglish. So I'd read the book with the kids, and I would have the Scipito accent for the kids. But I really engaged them. The kids really enjoyed it, and the teachers. I would have public school teachers ask the principals or the school district, can the mayor come and read to our class? Kids really love it, And so I started talking to my granddaughter about it, and I said, I want to write a book called "The Road to the Mayor's Office," and I want you to help me, because I think that there's some real place for you to help me draw the pictures. And we can talk about when I was a little boy growing up, and my dad worked 2 jobs and wasn't always available to help me with homework, or wasn't always available to take me to Little League games. He was working hard, so I had to do my job. I had to work hard, get good grades. And when I got older, the pressure was on. The pressure was on when kids in preteen and teenage years, sometimes they make bad choices. The pressure was on not to make those choices, because those choices would affect me later. And then when I got older and I had my own family, I had to work hard to take care of my family, be a good dad, be a good husband, be a good employee, be a good business owner. So I want to tell that story. I said, Rachel, will you help me? She says, yes, Papa, I can't wait. I have some ideas. And so she started drawing right then. She started drawing pictures. And, I was fortunate. I met a lady on a cruise ship. I met this lady who does write children's books. Mm-hmm. And so she's made, a very good name for herself all over the world. And then my niece, who lives in Michigan, she's heavily involved in education, and she introduced my daughter, Rachel's mother. My daughter, Sarah, introduced her to some publishing people that are interested in that concept as well. And so, yeah, that's one book that we're already starting. We're already doing the outline. We're in the process of, all the concept of the book. And then the second idea is that during the time, as we started this conversation, during the time we spoke about, I started journalizing my prayers as an elected. And so I wanted, and so I don't know if you can see this or not, but this book here. So I've done 4 of them. I've written 4 of them, page after page. And as I've written them, they were just basic, they were basic words from my mouth to God's ears. And they were just, I would have other elected officials. They would come to me and say, my wife has cancer. You know what? I'm going through divorce. I have a child that's got some addiction. I've got, all these issues. And they would come to my office and close the door and say, can I talk to you? Mm-hmm. And they said, sure, no problem. And at the end of the conversation, I'd sit there, I'd listen, and we talk. And at the end of the conversation, I'd say, can I pray for you? And they'd say, sure. It feels a little weird, being in the mayor's office, and here I'm elected for another city, and, I didn't come for this. I said, I know, that's okay. But I'm going to pray for you. And I'd pray for them then at that time. And then I'd write it and I'd send it to them. And I'd say, this is what I prayed about. And I'm not kidding you. Every time I did that, I mean, it was so many of these elected people would tell me, man, you really touched my heart. Thank you so much. I didn't expect that, and coincidentally, I had a guy yesterday, a pastor from West LA of all places, out by the airport. And he's a very good friend of mine, Pastor Maxwell. He's from Africa. And he is I love his accent. He's got such a cool accent. And so I told him, he says, I want to tell you that, I've been praying for your health and your family and your business and what's going to happen to you in retirement. I've been praying for you. And I just want you to know that. And I thought, wow, what a gift you can give somebody. You can tell somebody, hey, look, you're on my heart, my mind so much that I'm praying for you. I mean, you think about that. You think about the idea of, let's say you're not a faith-based person. Say maybe you're an atheist. Maybe you don't even believe in God. And you believe in genies. And you think, oh, if I found a teapot and I rubbed the teapot, my 3 wishes, right? What would my 3 wishes be, right? Well, these wishes, these faith-based people, their wishes are for me and my family and my health. That's wonderful, man. I mean, what a gift. What a gift! What gift could you give anybody? That would be the ultimate gift. For me, anyways. So that's my next book. I want to put a culmination of those prayers together and write a book called The Prayers of an Elected, and not give anybody secrets out. But I think that there are so many people that they will not tell you or me or anybody in public what their internal thoughts of concern, and those can be journalized. And when somebody reads it, oh my God, I thought the same thing. Oh wow, that's me. I feel the same way. And guess what? It's relief. It's consoling. So yeah, that's the second book of an idea of a book I have. I have another former mayor. He wrote a book. He wrote autobiography. And so I told him about this. And he goes, I want to write it with you. I want to do it. He's a Catholic chaplain. And so he said he wanted to do it. I said, okay, no problem. Let's do it.
So are you disciplined about your writing, or are you scheduling time? Or are you doing it as you find time right now?
A little of both. I mean, I think that the book with the book, The Prayers of an Elected, I now I've been praying for our country so much and writing about this so much, but
we appreciate that.
Yeah. So I've been doing so much of that only because I want this time to pass. I wanted to go to the next season, but so it's really what's on my heart. I used to start I get up early every morning. I used to get up like 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, get up and go to the gym and, then see some friends at the coffee shop and have coffee and talk to people. And, the mayor, you show up at a coffee shop, everybody, wants to sit there and bend your ear about something. So I used to do that. Now with all the different heart meds I'm taking, I'm really sleepy and I sleep into 6:30 to 7 o'clock. For me, that's sleeping all day, So, but when I get up early, I like, and it's quiet and just me by myself. I like to sit and I like to put the pen to paper. And then, and you can't exaggerate, you can't lie, you can't deceive. It's pen to paper, you and your faith. That's it. And so I like doing that. With the children's book, The Road to the Mayor's Office, my granddaughter, every time we see each other, we talk about it. We see each other all the time. So we're always talking about it. She'll show me pictures. What do you think of this idea? What do you think of this? So when she draws the pictures, then it gives me the idea of telling the story,
Rick, what excites you the most about the opportunities that are available to our next generation?
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. The other day when we saw all over the news the storming of the country's capital, I have 3 brothers, and they wrote on a group text, and they're going back and forth, and we don't all share the same political views. And they're going back and forth, and I didn't say anything. I stayed quiet. I remained quiet. But I call my 90-year-old mom. I call her almost every day, and I called my mom, and I say, Mom, how you doing? She's okay. She says, Mijo, what's to become of us? What is going on with us? And I said, I don't know, Mom. I just, it sure is a shame to see things happen. She goes, it sure seems like nothing's the same anymore. And when she said that to me, it really struck my heart with a vengeance. She's so right. Nothing is the same anymore. Good, bad, or indifferent. I grew up in the 60s. And when I grew up in the 60s and I'd walk and we'd pay the bills in person. We go with my mom and my grandma, we pay the bills in person. There's no paying online. There was no writing a check. It was you go with cash or a money order and you go pay the bill in person. Or you go to the bank and you got your cash paycheck at the end of the week in a little envelope. You go to the bank and deposit in the bank. So we go there, and if you didn't behave, you're a 4 or 5-year-old little toddler, and you would act out in public. You would be, disorderly in public, and a policeman would walk by in his uniform, so spit polished and clean and upright, with his shoulders, back and his chest out, and your parent would say, I know at least my mom would say, "You see that? That's a policeman. If you don't behave, I'm going to tell the police and he's going to talk with you."
That's right. Our family too.
Okay. So, and I said, "Yes, ma'am. Okay. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am." And I think about that time now that one of my sons is a policeman. I think about that. I think, how much respect did my mother not only teach me, but she made sure I understood. And I did the same with my children. In today's world, where 50% of marriages wind up in divorce, in today's world, 1 out of 5 people now have COVID. In today's world, where the homeless population is over almost 70,000 and growing, my mom's right. Nothing's the same anymore. And to include our young people. And so we have to, as adults, as seniors, as adults, as working adults, as retired adults, we owe our young people, we owe them the obligation to remind them of what was, to tell that story. That's why when you asked me about this podcast, I jumped at the chance. I love the opportunity to tell the story. Because good, bad, or indifferent, our story is good. Our story is healthy. Our story is, it wasn't always bad. Our story was sitting 6 kids at the same table and not speaking out of turn because my dad was at the head of the table. Our story was having homemade tortillas and beans and rice at every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And being poor and not knowing it, but saying one day. And all 6 of us did well for ourselves. And so that's what I think for our young people. I really believe they may not want it. They may not think that they deserve it, or may even think that, who cares? But we owe it to them. We owe it to them to pave the way. Just like my father and my mother were members of the greatest generation. And, out of my father came from 5 brothers. I came from 4 brothers. I have 4 sons. My oldest son has 4 sons. We have a large male population, generation after generation in our family. We owe it to the next generation to prepare. I tell my children now in our company, look, our company is not for you anymore. Our company is for the next generation. So what you make it is what you make it. So if you decide, I don't want to come to work today, or I want to be lazy, or I quit, it's not me hurting. I want to be okay. It's your children. We have to think, what are we doing? What are we doing? How will it affect our next generation? Right? That's business. Business 101. You forecast. You're constantly forecasting your next sales. You're forecasting your P&L. You're forecasting, your balance sheet. You're forecasting your business so you stay in business. Well, we as a country in America, we need to stay in business. How do we stay in business? We have to groom the next generation. We have to groom them. What does that look like? Well, our youth looks different. Our youth looks different, and we have to be prepared for that, the difference. Be mindful, be respectful, be kind. So I think that we'll be okay if our seniors, the old expression, oh, you can't see it from my house. I don't care. That's their parents' problem. It's not their parents' problem. It's everyone's problem. America is everyone's problem. And I think that that's really where we need to focus on, how do we help each other? We wouldn't have a homeless problem today. Out of the so many millions of people, for example, in Los Angeles, California, about 70,000 people. Well, how many people do we have in California? How many millionaires or billionaires do we have in California? I don't need you to write a check. I need you to take that guy and show him how to balance a checkbook. Take that guy how to put a tie on and go look for a job. Take that guy and say, yes, sir, no, sir, please, thank you. How to stay away from the dope, alcohol, and any other dependency. That's what you need to do. I mean, this is too easy. The human race is too easy to figure out, but we just can't. We're so selfish that we can't figure that out. So I think that, for our youth, that's why, even in front of my house, I have a bunch of young kids that always show up because of the little island outside the front door. And they show up with their bikes or their skateboards and this and that. I engage them. And people ask me all the time, how do you not have homeless encampment at your front door? I said, because every homeless person that shows up right there on the beach, I engage them. I offer them coffee, I offer them food, I offer them conversation. I engage them and they decide, that's okay, I'd rather go somewhere else. But I engage them, and I don't engage them in a negative way. I engage them only in a positive way. And what they do with it, that's up to them. So I think that's really the secret mojo, is that if we are able to find our way to, there's so many good ideas and great nonprofits that want to help youth and adolescents. And there's a lot of kids that are living in grandma's garage or living in somebody's car that want to go to college, that want to have a career path somewhere, and they're looking for that chance. So we just have to, and that's goes back to what you said earlier about the collaboration piece. I like that opportunity to know a guy. I know a guy that can help a guy,
In the research that I did in preparing for our conversation, there are two words that I kept seeing in everything I read about you. And those two words were volunteer and collaboration.
Yeah, thank you.
In every interview that I read and every article I read on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it really speaks to who you are.
Yeah. And, and I don't, I think that, I was talking to this guy yesterday, another business owner, and we're talking about the idea of how he got started in his business. And he, he just took a job sweeping floors and washing dishes at a restaurant. He never planned to be a chef, never planned to have a restaurant chain, never planned to have that. But he just started there. And every time the owner of the restaurant, the fast food restaurant, says, "Hey, you want to learn how to flip burgers?" "Yes, sir." "You want to learn how to use a grill?" "Yes, sir." "You want to learn how to take order?" "Yes, sir." I mean, he just was faithful and available. I call it being fat, right? Faithful, available, and teachable, right? In a society, everyone's going on a diet. I like being fat, But I think that's really, my wife and I both. We both have this. We both have this part of our heart that like to help others, and neither one of us have that part where it says, "I've done enough." There's times where we've been burned by people. We've helped somebody get a job, or we've helped somebody, get, pay their rent or get a place to live, and they destroy the place, or they get the job, get their paycheck and leave, or whatever. I could tell you probably just as many stories of that as I can successful stories, but you just can't stop. You just can't say, "No, I quit." You just can't. You just can't do it. I think that in our family, we're blessed because we keep the effort of blessing others. I think that's really paying it forward is a big piece to us.
Mm-hmm. Rick, since this show is called Making It, can you tell me what making it means to you, both personally and professionally? And also, can you share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
So it's funny. Back in 1996, when I first started my business, Honda used to co-sponsor a TV show called Making It on Channel 5. And so they asked me to be on that show. And we were a small little company, and we probably, I don't know if we had maybe 50 employees, maybe, I don't know. But I went on that show, and I look back now, I had, number one, I didn't have any gray hair, but I thought about this question you're asking me now, and, you really nailed it for me when in the opening statement you gave, and you mentioned the 3 words of passion, integrity, and global community. I really think that is the key to success, because if you have passion, you're not working. That's your expression, right? If you have passion in what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's been the story of my life. I can tell you story after story where I was living in Mexico, living in South America, living in Southeast Asia, living across the United States. And I'd have to be up for hours, days with no sleep, days, with very little things to eat, hours with not the ability to even go to the restroom. But I loved it. I have a picture in my office of me standing guard over the global CEO of Honda Motor Company. And I'm standing there watching as he's watching someone give a speech. And I'm standing there, and this guy, the Honda photographer, took a picture of me watching the surroundings. And the Honda corporate attorney sent me that picture, and he sent me this card with it. And it says, "We always feel so safe when you're around." That's it for me. That's the key to success. In my business, if somebody can go home and say, "Gosh, we were able to do a successful Academy Award show. We're able to roll out the next Honda jet or the next Honda car. We've had 0 crime on the MTA railways or bus lines." When I hear people say that, I think, wow, we did it. And now we're not just doing it we're doing it thousands and thousands of times every day around the world. And so that's really the success, because it's not just me anymore. My 7 children all are part of this thing called RMI. They're all part of this thing called Living Tree. When I want to retire, I ask my 7 children, one of you has to become the president. So I want you guys to tell me who that president should be. Now, in the corporate world, in order to get your promotion, your supervisor, your manager, your president, they look at John Doe, the employee, and the guy who comes to work on time and does a good job, doesn't complain, has good reviews, most likely will be the next promoted person. But in my company, you don't get a promotion until you find your replacement, because that means you care enough about this company that you want to keep your success going. So my 7 kids, they elected their oldest brother. Now, it could have been my youngest daughter, who's the legal mind, the HR mind. Could have been she really the true leader of the company. But they all said, Dad, he's a college graduate. He's a military veteran. He's a combat veteran. He's a Bronze Star, Silver Star recipient. He's a true leader. And this is a male-dominated business. And it should be him. Okay. So I said, okay, we're creating a board of directors for a Living Tree. So I need you guys to send me a representative to sit on our board, one of the 7. And so they selected their oldest sister, who was the single sister in the family. She was the oldest, and she's the least experienced in security. She was a former teacher, but she has a heart to help everyone. And so I think that's really the success for me, is when I'm gone, the success is the idea of, what do I leave behind? Right? What mark do I leave in this world? The Bible says the time we're here is like the grain of sand. And so, I'm 60 years old. My grain of sand is 60 years old. Does that go to 61 or 91? Where does it go to? And so I'm perfectly fine the direction it's going, because I think I'm leaving a mark. I think I'm leaving the idea of my legacy with my children and my grandchildren. I tell my grandchildren all the time, and I have my one grandson who's a sophomore in military school. He told his dad the other day, and by the way, I have 10 grandkids. You mentioned I have 9, I have 10.
Oh, 10.
Yeah. So my number 2 grandson, I always ask the older ones, so what do you guys want to do? What are we preparing for? Law school, med school, police, fire, carpentry. What are we preparing for? Plumbing. And my number 2 grandson says, Grandpa, he goes, I want to become an executive with RMI. So I'm going to go to college for business like my dad. Wonderful. I think it's awesome. Let's go, because it's yours to lose and yours to take. And so, I think that's really the important piece. Like I said about our next generation, we need to start preparing our own, grooming our own. And so for me to watch that, wow, that's amazing. And so, so I think that's really the crux of my success, is watching that. None of my children or grandchildren think, oh, I just can't do it. None of them have that attitude. They all think everything is approachable, available. They think we can do anything. And so, you should hear now the crazy ideas my kids come up with of it. Hey, Dad, let's do this. And hey, Dad, let's buy this and let's buy that. It's amazing, but I love it. I love their creativity. I hope I answered your question.
You certainly did, and then some.
Okay.
Rick, my final question, and I want to ask you this in the context of you being a son of migrant farm workers, growing up in Monte, California, and becoming the mayor of Downey, California. I would imagine that in your wildest dreams as a young child, that was not one of the things that had crossed your mind as who you would become as a man. Yeah. So my closing question to you is, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
Well, no, I think that if I go back, I rewind the hands of time, I think there's a lot of teachers in my 3rd and 4th grade class would say, no way, that guy will never be mayor. But I'll never forget when my dad died on Thanksgiving morning, a week and a half after I got elected. But he was on election day on November 8th, 2016. My father was coherent enough to watch the news and see the bottom tape of Channel 4 News watching elections all throughout the country. And the bottom of the screen was my name and my opponent, and me winning by 44% of the vote. And I'll never forget the next day, that night, my daughter, Roxanne, she got my mom and dad hooked up with an iPad and showed them how to FaceTime. And so they really didn't understand it, but we got on FaceTime, and I said, "Hey, Dad, we won. Can you believe it? We won." And he's, yeah, you won. So come over tomorrow. We had some cafecito and pastelito. I said, okay, I'll come over tomorrow. Coffee and Mexican bread. I said, okay. So I did that. The next day, my dad and my mom were wearing my campaign T-shirts. And Rodriguez across the top, they were wearing. They surprised me wearing the T-shirts, And we sat there, and he goes, he says, I don't know why you want this job. You had a great job. You have a good business, but I don't understand why you want this job. But hey, you got elected. You got the job you wanted. Just don't do something stupid and get in trouble. And I said, okay, Dad, I get it. I promise I won't get in trouble. That was the greatest wisdom in the world he gave me. I think back now, wow, I think being the mayor of the 11th or 12th largest city in the state of California, I think about the idea of what my kids, maybe one of my sons will be a senator or member of Congress, or maybe they won't do anything in politics. Maybe they just continue to take this company and make it where we have, tens of thousands of employees around the world. And maybe they find a whole new way to pay for college for all of our employees, or we give all our employees medical benefits, get better medical benefits. Maybe a way that our company can develop enough profit margin that Living Tree does some great things and finds cures for things like COVID and cancer, But I think that what I would tell myself as a younger person was, don't be surprised. Don't be surprised at what can happen if you just keep the course. And when I was a young person, I never felt comfortable with the idea of lying, stealing, or cheating. That was not my game. I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea of stealing. I didn't like the idea of lying. I'd always get caught. I didn't like the idea of cheating. I'd always get caught. I didn't think that was the right thing to do. And so it goes back to my grandfather. When he first came from Mexico, you would never see him with a picket sign in his hand. You'd never see him yelling, talking back to a police officer who's getting a ticket. He was afraid. He was afraid that they wouldn't accept him as an American. And so for me, I wasn't afraid, but I definitely believed that there was some good results of keeping the course. And so I think that for myself, telling myself as a younger person, I would just say, keep the course, be faithful. The Bible says, be faithful in all things, even the small things. And I would say, do that, be faithful. My wife and I, we were watching this new Netflix series called Imposters. And it's a group of liars. It's all about lying. And I told my wife, I said, if they showed this, if more politicians and business executives watched this series, they wouldn't get in trouble because they use blackmail against each other and they lie about everything. That's the premise of the story of this series. And I think, if you believe that there's a camera watching, someone's watching, your kids are watching, your wife's watching, your family's watching. You don't want to break the heart of your parents. You don't want to have to apologize to your children. Stay the course. And I think that would make a huge difference in my life. I think, I never went to jail. I never got arrested. I was never addicted to drugs. I never had those issues. I think predominantly because my father, my mother, and my brothers and sisters, they encouraged me to stay the course.
Mayor Rick Rodriguez, Thank you for your time, and also thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. What a pleasure, Terry. I can't begin to tell you what an honor and pleasure it was to do this. I mean, I'm looking forward to this all week long, just because I knew, what a good product you're putting out in society, and I can't wait to share this with my Facebook friends and family and my own family, because I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish over this time. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a lot to be proud of.
All right. Thank you. And like I said before, God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you, and see you around the block.
All right, sir. Take care.
Take good care. And everybody take good care. Stay safe.
Yes.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.